Hey guys, we're back.
Yay!
Hope everybody's doing good. Hope you
Yeah,
brought
we all
your
got our
book, or at least you read it.
we all got our physical books.
So this
Yeah.
week we're doing chapter 2. So, there's a lot of info in these chapters.
Yeah.
And
Is Charlie joining us this week?
I don't think so.
No?
I
I
miss
don't
Charlie.
know. I think didn't he send us a message that said he wasn't going to be here for a few weeks, but I'll put this just in case.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're here, Charlie, you're definitely welcome to come. You know that.
Yep.
So who wants to start off? Chapter 2.
Right. Well, you want to share what you've been up to for the last few days before we dive in?
Oh, we can, yeah.
Yeah, we usually do that.
Well, me, I've just been, I've been sitting around the house. I've been off work for the last week and a half, I guess. I go back to work. I'm off for 14 days. I go back to work on Wednesday.
Okay.
So
Nice.
me and my hubby have just been sitting around the pool and sitting under my new gazebo that I'm sitting under right now, which you can't see. And it's not too hot out today, so I thought I would just sit out here and do it today. So
Very nice.
and let's see. And then I was not on Carrie's live stream, but I helped to moderate Carrie's live stream last night. So that was fun. All the doctors getting together and talking and just, hanging out and raising some money. And so they did a great job with that.
It's nice to see Dr. Nelson finally joining in. That was nice.
I like that. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely.
So what about you girls? What have y'all been up to?
Well, Friday was a crazy day for me because of all the CrowdStrike stuff. So here's what happened.
Oh, yeah. They called my husband at 3 a.m. His work.
Yes. I woke up at about, I don't know, it was maybe 1:30-ish, I don't know, to go to the bathroom.
Oh.
And I saw this blue glow coming from my office here. And I was like,
the blue screen of death.
That ain't right. And so I came in and saw the blue screen of death. And so I was like, oh, well, maybe the update just didn't finish. They probably pushed the update and it didn't finish. So I'm just going to restart, So I restarted. Hey, Charlie. So I restart, but I messed with my computer and then, which I had no clue it was a global thing. And I don't watch the news. I mean, I'm just basically just clueless so I had no idea. And so I reverted back to prior to updates. So I was able to log in, but of course, everything else was our apps were down because there was more involved, because it was all security related and stuff. And so, it was pretty crazy. Friday was just a weird day. And I logged off right at 3:30 too, because I was like, I'm done. I was so tired.
I bet it was difficult to work on Friday. They called my husband at 3 a.m. because he's an IT guy, and his workplace called him and he's like, I'm actually on vacation. So they said, well, they told us to call all the sysadmins. And he said, sorry, I'm on vacation.
Lucky him.
He got lucky.
One.
Yeah.
Wow. Awesome. Yeah. For some reason, I was completely zoned out on that happening. I think I saw a headline, but it didn't really necessarily impact me too much. So, yeah. But so I've been working on the same old stuff except for Healing Humanity, and we got our the children's book, the Carnivore children's book, is published and ready for purchase.
Oh wow!
And
right,
yeah. So it's available on Amazon, and I should probably post a link. But
what's it called?
It's called Superhuman Power Foods for Humanity. Let me find the link. I'll post the link. And proceeds go to the Healing Humanity documentary.
Oh, cool. That's
Right.
Yeah.
neat.
So it's a comic book, and it also is a coloring and activity book.
I guess
It's
we
like
should all
100.
post. I guess we should
It's
all
like
post in our.
120 pages.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I mean, now
Um,
the coloring pages have like nothing on the back because of bleed through. We don't want, but the other pages are front and back, so it's a pretty beefy book. It's 120 pages, and yeah, so
I'm
that's
trying
and,
to figure.
and the co-author is Amy D. Hosp, and she is a carnivore, and she is on her healing journey as well. So
I'm trying to see how I can post that. Let's see here. I mean, not
yeah,
just
that's
on
a
the
really
screen.
like yeah, that's a
Hold
hard one.
on.
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to
I'll post
see. It won't let me click on it.
I'll post the link in the description on my channel once we're done. But I know I wish it would give me a much easier. But if you look up the title, I'll put the title here. Title is super. I can't type. My nails are getting too long. Superhuman Power Foods for Humanity.
That's cool.
That is
That's a
really
good
cool.
title.
So I'm going to put art by Anne, the author names too. Okay, so that's going in the chat there.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah. Yep. So we're excited to get that out. We're probably going to be doing a live stream. I don't know. I'm not sure yet. Carrie's he ordered his copy. I think he got it. The plan is to push it through his channel. And of course, anyone who has a YouTube channel, I mean, if you don't, this is a way you can help contribute to the documentary, is just to promote it. And, grandparents, parents, anybody with young kids in their lives, this is a really good way to help. And it's very, it's ages probably, I mean, we said like 4 to 12 because there are some activities that are a little bit higher level, and there's some other things that are higher level. Like there's pages for kids to like put in their own recipes. There's pages for them to do their own comic strip and brainstorm ideas and story ideas. So there's some things that are more for some older kids, but then there's also some really simple coloring pages, and the comic strip itself is geared more towards younger kids. As far as the dialogue and everything is more geared towards younger kids and the way younger kids think. And it's just an introduction to beef, bacon, butter, and eggs, and their superheroes, and their power beef, power bacon, power egg, and they're cute. They're just cute characters, and they're introducing children to these super foods and how these other foods that are going to make you feel bad, and these foods are going to make you strong. So, anyways, yeah, so that was exciting. Pretty excited to start promoting that book, and hopefully bring in some more money for the Healing Humanity documentary.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
Well, what about you, Charlie? What have you been up to?
Been changing up my exercise routine a little bit. So I've incorporated some racquetball into my routine lately. Good. So I've actually played some games with Brett from Hoosier Carnivore. So
nice.
Cool.
So yeah. So we're both trying to get back into it. So a lot of fun there. And then I've incorporated some yoga too, just because that's so different than anything else that I do, that I thought it's a good way to challenge my body in different ways. So that's absolutely pretty much what's new with me, is just racquetball and yoga.
So do you and Brett live in the same town?
Pretty close. He lives, maybe a good 20, 30 minutes away. So we just...
Okay, that's not too bad.
Yeah.
Well,
awesome.
That's cool.
Good. I know I got to meet Brett, and when we were in Austin, he stayed at the Airbnb with our team, and man, him and Ashley Rogers cooked so much for us. It was awesome. He's a great guy.
Yeah, he is. I got to meet him earlier this year. He came to Nashville, and we ate at Edley's. barbecue.
Okay. All right. Cool.
He just
All
gets to know
right.
all the carnivores.
That's right.
That's cool.
So I don't know if you caught last week, Charlie, but we were like overly ambitious with trying to tackle 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Because 1 was so packed full. So we got through the introduction in chapter 1 only. So this week we're tackling chapter 2. So you didn't miss a lot. So
Right.
that's good.
Chapter 2 was a beast. Beast of a chapter.
Yep.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So.
Lynn says chapter 4 is also a beast. I was listening to it. I actually already listened up through chapter 4.
Overachiever.
But, yeah. Oh, yeah, something like that.
Chapter 4 is definitely a beast. So, but all right, well, let's dive into chapter 2 then. So, who wants to start?
Well, I mean, I can. I mean, she was talking about Lucy, who was her first. I'm not sure if it was like her very first patient, but it says she was one of her first patients. And Lucy, after she had left the traditional, after she left her residency and everything, and she had started her own practice. And the issues that Lucy had, which sadly, I mean, many of my friends like have all the same stuff, and it's just sort of typically accepted as a part of getting older, or you know what I mean? It's like you just are going to end up with these things. But she, poor Lucy, she had PCOS, polycystic ovary syndrome, and she was considering going through IVF because they wanted to have children. But then she also she just didn't feel well. She had gastrointestinal issues. She had depression. She had facial acne. So she just had a lot of things going on with her that most people would look at as being separate things. And of course, she had separate doctors, but she was interested in seeing Casey because she was going to incorporate and look into the root cause instead of just treating each thing individually. And what was really interesting, I thought, because like she was saying, Lucy would have said that she eats and sleeps well, but they had a 2-hour initial visit, which is virtually unheard of. But when you start digging in, because for one thing, for example, what is healthy? I mean, that's so subjective in terms of talking about a healthy diet. Depends on who the person is. But so her sleep wasn't that good after all because of her husband and her cat disrupting her. And I can definitely understand about a cat disrupting you.
I can understand about a husband disrupting me because he gets up at 1:45 in the morning.
Right. And then her food, she was eating refined and ultra processed foods. And she did do a little bit of yoga, but she wasn't really consistently exercising. She, would do things here and there, maybe a weekend hike or something. And then she apparently had just moved to the new community. So there was the stress of not knowing people, not having friends or a friend group to be involved with. And of course, then there was the staring at the blue lights, working on the computer. And hello, that's me. I need to get some of those glasses. I've been meaning to try those blockers.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, and then toxins, which, I mean, I guess if you put all that stuff together, but her water was unfiltered, which mine is too. So she ended up, having a dose of chemicals and toxins through that. And her personal care products and home care products also had toxins. And then she drank wine several nights a week. So what they did was they created a plan together on changes that she could make overall. And in just 6 months, she had profound improvements in her health, how she felt, how she looked, everything. So it's just amazing.
Yeah, she even postponed her in vitro fertilization because her periods were improving. and she was showing signs that she might be able to conceive. So that was really encouraging.
Mm-hmm. So it's really interesting to, to see how, people could say, oh, well, I just eat healthy. Yes, I get enough sleep. But then you really dive into the truth of how much exercise do you really get, and, that kind of thing. And then you make a plan. And she was talking about creating a plan that incorporated seeing food as medicine. And I really would love to see that be a new trend, and hopefully maybe at some point it might be, I don't know, but I really just think that's a very important approach, because, and as we go on through this chapter, I mean, we'll see just how many health issues, I mean, virtually everything has just gotten worse and worse and worse. Increases in varying health conditions. I mean, there's nothing that's trending downward. It's everything is getting worse.
Right. And again, she talks about too, having her maximize sunlight during the day.
Mm-hmm.
We spend so much of our lives indoors, and it's always a good reminder that was part of the treatment plan. Was to get out there and get in the sun. And how many decades have we been told that sun exposure is bad for us? And so we slather ourselves up if we're going to go out in the sun. And it makes me wonder if it's the toxins in our body that's affecting our skin that creates that issue more than the sun. I mean, I realize, yes, you shouldn't get burned, right? But I mean, we can see the improvement. I mean, in skin through changing our diet. I mean, my skin is like night and day.
I think it's just the inflammation itself. The inflammation also makes you get, well, along with different skin conditions, it also makes you get burned easier,
Mm-hmm.
And
that makes sense.
Well, your cells are made out of materials that weren't designed for human consumption. So your body is trying to do the best it can with what it's got, but I mean, it's nowhere near. So when we start eating all the fats, the butter, the bacon, grease, and the lard and all that.
Now I'm getting hungry.
I know, right? But when you start eating all that, and then your building blocks, or the fuel, is what you need, what your body craves, and that's why we feel so much better. And then that's also why we look so much better, because I know my skin has improved a ton.
Yeah, and I'm like that too. I don't really burn. I used to burn so fast, and I mean, I may burn if I stayed out for a really long time.
Yeah. I've done that, and I did, but it didn't last, Yeah. You know how like the next day it'll be kind of gone.
I used to burn within just a few minutes, and at least get pink within, maybe 5 minutes or so of being out. And now I can be out there for like 30 minutes, no sunscreen, nothing. And I don't burn. And I mean, I'm not going to push it, because I am English and Irish.
Yeah, me too. My functional medicine doctor, one of her like plans for me, and we did have a 2-hour first visit, by the way.
That's awesome.
You pay for that though.
Yeah.
But it's well worth it, because I mean, you're going to pay for it on the front end or the back end. Right. But yeah, she has me get like her recommendation for me is to get morning sunlight, first thing in the morning, go out, just, 20-30 minutes. And I mean, she said even 15 if you can't do any more than that,
Yeah.
And it helps.
Yeah.
It helps your circadian rhythm too,
Right. Getting the sun in your eyes first thing in the morning tells your body it's wake up. Irish descent, redhead. Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Arlene.
Hi, Arlene.
Good to have you here. So one thing that was interesting that she was saying after her kind of summing up what she did with Lucy one of the points she said is mild symptoms today should be seen as clues that more serious disease will likely follow. And I liked that, because she's, we tend to think that mild symptoms are just normal part of life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, one thing I've noticed, I'm sorry.
Flag.
Go ahead, Lynn. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, instead of being a red flag.
Yeah. That's one thing I've noticed. Like I said, I've read through chapter 4, and she reiterates that later on. And she talks about how symptoms are like the warning signs that we should be paying attention to, not ignoring, even mild symptoms. And that's one thing I've noticed over the years is whenever I would have relatives who would cough all the time, later down the road, 20, 30 years down the road, they end up with something bad wrong with their lungs, whether it be cancer or, just whatever. But it's like, oh, they've just got allergies. No, you don't. You're not supposed to cough constantly like that. And I myself had that for, probably 5 years. And I was tying it to the candida in my esophagus, which it may not. It may have been just inflammation. I don't know. May have been food sensitivities. But whatever it was, if I didn't get rid of that, I have no doubt in my mind that later down the road, I would develop more serious disease. I had already developed pneumonia 3 times in a 4-year period.
Wow.
And my doctor wasn't even, she was just like, it's like, look, lady, there's something not right here,
It's not normal.
So that's when I went to see the immunologist, and that led me down a whole path. But, it's gotten me healthier, that path I've been on.
Right. Yeah. So no, I think it's good. It's good that she brings that up, to not just ignore the mild symptoms.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Obviously, if they don't persist, it could be an anomaly. But if you've got persistent mild symptoms, don't ignore that. There's something wrong.
Yeah.
Your body's trying to
we're
tell
talking about like coughing every day,
Right.
That's not normal. Nobody has allergies 24/7, 365. If you do, then you need to remove whatever the allergen is from your environment or stop eating it.
Yeah.
But doctors will just say, oh, you've got seasonal allergies, and they'll put you on a, Claritin just constantly, just every day, all year long.
Yeah. Or even if you're prone to injury, so you may not necessarily be like, have arthritis, or, you have constant pain, but maybe you're always injuring yourself. That to me is still another one of those things that shouldn't be ignored. Like, because we should not be that susceptible to injury.
That's true.
So that can, that could indicate that, unless you're like a major risk taker and always doing risky behaviors. But, I know with me over the years, I was always twisting my ankle, spraining my wrist, pulling muscles in my back. Those are things, and, having neck issues. That's not normal. You're not supposed to have. And so it's weird. Like, sometimes we take our musculoskeletal issues as normal part of life. And I don't think it's supposed to be.
Or part of aging, that's just a natural progression. Your body is just going to go downhill as you get older. That's what we're, we just have to accept that. That's basically what we're told. And everybody around you is experiencing those same things. Like the issues that Lucy had. That's almost a textbook right there of just issues that people in her age group would be going through. I know family who, for example, has PCOS, they can't conceive. It's a real, and among other, just little health issues. And it's like,
well, that was me. I got diagnosed with PCOS when I was in my 20s and went through fertility treatments 4 times, and, was never able to get pregnant. And, I wish back then I had somebody to guide me. Throughout all of that, I don't recall the fertility doctors ever talking to me about diet. And as I was gaining weight through all that, it was like, oh, well, but that's just really common with PCOS is to gain weight. And there was never any talk about anything underlying. Of course, for me, that was back in the early 90s, and they were still kind of learning about PCOS.
Yeah.
And it used to be that they would just do a hysterectomy, and then they got to where, okay, well, let's put you on birth control pills. And later they figured out, well, maybe metformin helps, but it was never like, well, why are women getting this? It was just, okay, well, what is it and how do we treat it? Not like put the Band-Aid on it, right? But yeah, no, never had any discussion of diet and lifestyle ever. So, but leading into, because of PCOS, I guess it's good to lead in the next section. It has to do with babies and children, which was cool. I mean, I'm glad that she brought this chapter into it. She kind of goes through the life stages here about, but she starts out with infants. And I know she talked about how she was like a really big baby, right? And she said that, she said when my mom was preparing to get pregnant in the 1980s, she had to duly follow the nutritional advice of the time: copious grains, bread, crackers. We were told to eat 6 to 11 servings a day, and lots of low fat snacks, since fats back then were to be eaten sparingly. Sufficient protein, healthy protein, was surprisingly and unsurprisingly an afterthought, given its no man's land place in the confusing middle of the pyramid. And so her mom hated vegetables. She had broiled tomatoes with Parmesan. Interesting. That was her vegetables. But so her mom ended up with metabolic abnormalities, and then she ended up with, Casey Means herself was 11 pounds, 9 ounces as a baby when she was born. That
is a big baby. Because I thought my son was big at 9 pounds and an ounce.
Oh, yeah. And she said that having a large baby increases the risk of future metabolic problems for both mom and baby, including type 2 diabetes and obesity. So, but she talks about insulin resistance, that children born with macrosomia, or big babies, are often exposed to high levels of glucose in utero, which can cause insulin resistance in the child, which of course is going to lead to higher risk of type 2 diabetes. And then she said they also have an increased quantity and size of fat cells, likely due to maternal fatty acids stimulated the conversion of fetal stem cells into fat cells, that can also contribute to obesity and metabolic problems. And then they're exposed to high levels of inflammation in utero, which can contribute to metabolic problems as they age. So obviously, controlling your diet is really important in pregnancy. And then chronic infections. She's talked about chronic infections likely connected to her suboptimal immune system. I guess she had a lot of this infections. She was born C-section. Her mom didn't breastfeed. I mean, these are all ways, we know that babies get their initial, immune system was through regular birth and through breastfeeding if the mom can.
I was very ill-informed when I had my C-sections. I had 4 C-sections. The first one was obviously out of emergent need. And then the next 3 were because the doctor basically said, oh, well, you need to have C-sections now. So I was very uneducated on the whole thing. There wasn't a lot of information out there on the internet about it. I mean, there was a little, but you really had to dig. It's not like it is today, But I wasn't even aware that, not passing through the birth canal, they would not have the immune system that they should. They wouldn't be, their, gut microbiome wouldn't be seated. I had no idea. I feel like that was
if you get the right educated person delivering your baby, now, even with women that have to have a C-section, they can actually take a vaginal sample, and put it up in the baby's nostrils. with a C-section birth to simulate a vaginal birth.
I'm pretty sure they didn't do that.
Very healthy.
I mean, I guess I didn't really see much of what was going on the other side of that drape, but
I would guess that unless you talk to the doctor about it ahead of time, I don't know that they do it. But I've heard that there are midwives, that talk to people about it, like just in case you have to do a C-section, ask the doctor to do this. And so that's an option for someone who has to have a C-section. Like, ask your doctor to do that. So at least your baby will get something and, not completely miss out on that. So, but yeah, definitely to be born without getting that initial good boosted immune system, it just puts you at a disadvantage from the beginning. So she said, this is interesting. She said she was 210 pounds before she reached 8th grade.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I would not have.
It's hard to believe. Like, looking at her, she doesn't look like she's ever been overweight.
Mm-mm.
No.
I wonder how tall she is. I don't know that I mean, sometimes, like if she were 5 feet tall, for example, there would be a big difference between that and being 5'10", in terms of like how much the weight would impact you or how you would carry it. So I was just curious as to how tall she is.
I don't know, but she's very slender. So that's good. I mean, I was talking a lot to Todd Bachnes when we were in Austin. And he was telling me about how his mom, when she, gave birth to him, he was a really, really big baby, and that her diet had gotten terrible. And his older siblings are all lean, and then the younger ones were all big. And, he said that he was at age 8, I think he was 300 pounds.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I saw him. Well, I've seen several interviews with him where he talked about that.
And see, I don't care what you're eating. That's an obvious hormonal problem.
Yeah.
And I think I've known that, like, just, inherently known that for a long time, and just wondered, like, what is it? What's going on? There's something going on. But it's almost like the medical establishment won't even acknowledge that, like there's something wrong here. This is not normal. This is not what happens, even if you're eating tons of junk food, Lots of us did that. And that didn't result, and the amount of food that people are eating is not equivalent to the amount of weight that they gain either,
Yeah, that's true. It's what your body, like you said, the hormones, is what your body does with what you put in it. It's not necessarily
like anybody who has several children, you can see it. I've got 4 boys. So, one of them's little bitty, and then one of them's kind of struggled with his weight a little. And then, the other 2 pretty much a little bit of weight like right before puberty, and then one of them's not through puberty yet, but anyway, but then got slender after puberty. So it's just like, and they're all pretty much eating the same thing, It's not great, but I don't know. I wish I could change it now. I would. If I could go back, oh man, I would change. I would never introduce them to kid food,
No.
The chicken nuggets, the macaroni and cheese, the little pizzas and stuff like that. I wish I could just go back and do all organic and homemade and what I wouldn't give.
Well, we can't go backwards. I know I feel the same way with my kids, but I wasn't healthy when I was raising my kids. And so, like, how do I know how to raise them to be healthy when I can't even take proper care of myself?
Yeah, same.
Yeah. When you don't feel well as a mom or as a dad, you don't feel well. It's hard to take the time and effort to make good meals.
Yeah.
Like, I would just throw something together because I didn't have any energy. But that's common. But yeah, so she said that her doctors the doctors called her healthy, even though she had low-grade anxiety, painful menstrual cycles, acne along her jawline and back, semi-regular headaches, recurrent tonsil infections in her early teen years. And these weren't seen as red flags. Doctors called her healthy, and I guess it was because it was common. Yeah.
Yeah, like what teenager doesn't have zits and etc. There again, or the painful cycles. I mean, it was terrible. Like when I was in my early teens. I mean, my dad would have it was like clockwork. He would have to come pick me up from school once a month. He would have to come get me because it was terrible.
Yeah, that was me too.
Stay in bed.
Charlie's like, me too.
Yeah, me too.
I
don't know. She's like 9 years old, so I'm trying to learn about this stuff ahead of time and trying to teach her.
She'll be there.
Yeah,
she'll be there. Well, and eating healthy is hard. It's hard for kids because they're surrounded by junk food with their friends and stuff. But I know one of my best friends growing up. We ended up going to college together. And we're dorm mates. And she, leading up to that point, she was one of those who never had any acne. But then diet changed when we went away to college and we lived in a dorm. And by the end of the year, she had a lot of acne. And so there were sure multiple factors, but the diet was a huge one. Like her diet had totally changed. Eating cafeteria food in the college dorm. And so acne is definitely related. If you listen to Emma Mann, Carrie Mann's daughter, her acne and the changes that she's experienced with changing her diet. It's pretty profound.
Yeah, it's amazing looking at her skin.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, we already knew that's, it's the food, duh, but it's just it's so cool to get that confirmation literally on somebody's face. And I had the same thing. I never had acne as a teenager. Maybe, a spot here, a spot there. But as a 40-something-year-old woman, I had acne all along my chin line, down my neck here, and it went away. Within, probably a couple weeks, it was mostly gone. I do watch some of my old videos though, and I notice, I can still tell my skin was a little bit inflamed, but it's like night and day difference.
Yeah. Well, if any of you have seen my before pictures of my rosacea from my channel, you know how much my skin has changed for sure.
It looks amazing now.
So it's like I didn't know if I was ever going to get healed from that, and it was mortifying. And wearing any makeup over it, it's just like obvious. It would take layers to try to even get close to covering it, and it still showed through.
Yeah.
And then the makeup irritated my skin even more. So it was,
And I don't know about you, but like, I'm not used to wearing makeup, and I just feel like a clown when I wear a bunch of makeup. Occasionally I'll wear some. I think it's fun to play around in, but I feel like it makes me look older. It settles in my fine lines, and it makes my dark circles are not as dark as they used to be. I think that was food allergies, because allergies can make your eyes dark underneath. But yeah, when I wear it, it just like, I feel like the stuff that's supposed to lighten under there just makes it like more pronounced. Maybe it's a skill thing. Way. I don't know. It could be a skill thing, but I'm fine without wearing it.
Yeah, I wear as little makeup as possible. Once in a while, I'll put like a little bit of, maybe like a highlighter or something under my brows, kind of give my eyes a little bit of definition or something.
Yeah.
But now, y'all, I know you've noticed my Groucho Marx eyebrows, and my daughter and I went and got.
They're not Groucho Marx.
Every time I glance at myself, I see them, and we had gone and gotten our brows threaded, and look it up if you don't know what that is, because it is legalized torture. and then they put henna on it, and now the henna it'll wash off, but that's why my
Yeah.
eyebrows look like, like that. But
They
anyway.
look sexy.
I got my
No,
brows threaded one time and it was horrible. I broke out all around my eyebrows in red, inflamed, and little pustules.
Oh
Oh,
gosh.
really? Wow.
Never.
See, that would be
again.
me. That would be me. I tried to wax my upper lip and yeah, it didn't go well. The next week I had like zits all over.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Charlie's like, yeah, me too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Charlie's
yeah.
like, can we get back to the book, please?
Can I,
He's got a daughter.
yeah. Oh yeah. I have a daughter, and she is all into the perfumes and makeups. I have to turn the vent on in the bathroom because she likes to spray herself liberally with all these
Oh, wow.
that I find annoying.
Yeah, teaching a little moderation is good. Oh, thanks, Arlene.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Arlene.
Awesome.
Can
All
I
right, so
share a slide? Can I try to share a slide real quick? So let me see if this works. Let's see, window. All right.
Okay.
Let me know when you can see it. So
Oh.
So chapter 2 for the reader, and I don't know that this is going to make a whole lot. I don't know that this presents well, but she talks about bad energy in chapter 2, and there's a lot of comorbidities. She starts with, Lucy and some of her own biographical details. And she goes like each of these words on here, there are pretty detailed sections on in the book. So you can imagine
Mhm.
Yeah.
there's quite a lot of them. We talked about macrosomia, the big body baby one, some infertility, and then she kind of goes through other things. So there's comorbidities with bad energy, as she calls it, and she kind of makes the case that all of these probably have a common root cause, and they're not separate things. But this is when I was reading this, I was taking careful notes, like every section, like when she talked about chronic fatigue and then stroke, and then towards the end of the chapter, I kind of had to zoom out a little bit to kind of put this visual together that what she's talking about here is kind of a spectrum of comorbidities with bad cellular energies and stuff. And I think that she makes the case quite convincingly. I mean, I had no idea that acne that we were just talking about has like a common root cause in inflammation and all that stuff. So I thought it was really kind of eye-opening, but it's a beast of a chapter because each of these words that I have on here, she has like several detailed paragraphs that are each interesting in their own rights. So
you created this diagram, Charlie?
yeah, just because
That's
by the
awesome.
time I took notes,
Yeah,
it was
that
like 10
is.
pages long, and I'm like, hold on, I need a one-page way to kind of summarize or remember what she talked about in chapter
Well
2.
done.
I
That
love
is
it.
great.
Send that to her. She can put it in her next version of her book.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily in order that she talked about it. I was just thinking about like things that you go from youngest to oldest, and then there was COVID-19 that was in there too. It could have gone from like less serious to more serious, but that was just the way I was visualizing it. But
and it's interesting because like when you talk about youngest to oldest, you wouldn't think that fatty liver disease would be on the young end. And that was one of the things that was really surprising to me when she was talking about fatty liver disease among children.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't even know that was an issue. I mean, when I worked with GI, we were adults, but like 16 and over. We didn't deal with children. There were pediatric gastroenterologists that dealt with pediatrics. I had no idea that kids that young could get fatty liver disease. That's crazy.
Just imagine what they're eating to get that at such a young age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they must be really eating like just pure, just everything ultra processed. The snacks, the gummies, I don't know, the goldfish, all the crackers.
Well, and that and the hormones, the
Yep, and then their
hormones are
hormones
off,
are
and
a
they're
good point.
storing more fat, and it's all a vicious cycle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've never heard a weight loss story where it began with I got so big because I ate whole unprocessed foods.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Right.
Yeah, but at the same time, like it is the food, but it's not just the food. There's so many factors here, like well, and it goes back to it's the food, but it's the food that your mom ate, even that your dad ate, that your grandparents ate, like that kind of thing is passed down epigenetically, you know. I guess that's the right way of saying it. Yeah, because it's not technically part of your genes until they do it, and then that makes it part of their genes, and then they pass it on. So
epigenetics, right? So
yeah. So what was I gonna say? I was gonna say something. Oh, Lynn. So just from looking at that slide, I'm sure you remember probably very well when we're taking people's histories in nursing. You can tell, you could almost predict like which people were going to say hypertension, diabetes, high cholesterol. Like there's like several that just go together, and it would be, and then the longer the list got, it would be, chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, autoimmune disease. Like it just, the older they get and the longer that list gets. And then it's obvious that nobody's putting the picture together here,
Yeah.
We're just
Well, and
like,
I don't know.
now you got this. Here, take this.
I don't know if you've noticed or is that even things like hypertension seem like they're so normalized nowadays,
Oh,
like as you
yeah.
get older, that it's almost not considered a comorbidity.
Yeah.
Like you have a comorbidity if you have like congestive heart failure
Yeah.
or, but just hypertension is
Hey, Renee.
more just a normal thing to find. Hey, hi, Renee.
Yeah. Hypertension's just a garden, run of the mill garden variety. That's nothing.
Right. Right.
But
Yeah.
it is, and you don't realize, I think you don't even really factor in how critical that is when we're talking about somebody who's going in for a surgery or somebody who's got something else going on. It can really play a part in the outcome.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's interesting. I know she was talking about irritable bowel syndrome, and I had underlined here that she said strong evidence shows reduced mitochondrial activity and decreased energy production within the gut lining cells in people with IBS. So that's interesting because I know that with IBS, it was always taught that it was strictly, like, at least for me as a GI nurse, that it was neurological. But she's saying there's actually decreased mitochondrial activity in the gut lining, the cells lining the gut. That was new to me. I hadn't heard that before.
So I told you I was diagnosed by my functional medicine doctor with having mitochondrial. Let's see, what did she say? What did I tell you? She said
mitochondrial
dysfunction. And so normal doctors don't diagnose you with that because they probably don't even believe in it. But functional medicine doctors and probably integrated medicine and holistic, they are more into root cause, getting down to the root cause to actually get you healed rather than just throwing a bunch of pills and surgery at you. So they will do that. And I think the mitochondrial dysfunction and inflammation definitely go together. And wherever that is in your body, which if you have it, it's probably everywhere. It's just wherever it presents itself, in your body. The way I look at it, though, is, the same as I would always look at it with the heart blockages. If you've got heart blockages, you've got blockages other places. It's the same thing. but I don't feel like the medical system really looks at it that way. And that's always just been something that's kind of been obvious to me almost. It's like, okay, well, if it's doing this to this vessel, it's probably, your kidney vessels are probably not great either,
Right. It's systemic vascular inflammation that leads to plaque buildup. So it's like, if you've got a coronary artery blockage, it's not like the body just causes problems there.
Well, and I'm not saying they don't acknowledge that, like they definitely will, but I just feel like it's just so segmented. We're dealing with the heart. Okay, we're dealing with the brain. We're dealing with the kidneys. Come together, folks.
Yeah,
it's really
well, even among cardiologists, there's a differentiation in specialty between like the heart and then the vascular doctors.
Mm-hmm.
There's doctors that just specialize in the vascular system.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And then you've got the cardiologists, and then you got the cardiothoracic surgeons. Don't get those two confused.
That's right.
One of them will give you a stent. The other one is going to cut your chest open and give you a bypass.
Do they have right ear surgeons and left ear surgeons yet?
I'm sure one of these days, Charlie, that will happen.
You never know. So, all right. So, but I mean, it all comes down to the oxidative stress that she was talking about in her in the last chapter. When you're dealing with mitochondrial dysfunction, then you get the oxidative stress, and then that recruits the immune system, and you get the inflammatory response. And, it all links back to like what's causing the mitochondrial dysfunction in the first place. That's what needs to be addressed.
And it all goes back to Bart Kay's video that I sent you guys about the the citric acid cycle. How fats and carbs are metabolized. If you go back and watch that video of his, it just like makes so much sense.
I need to watch that again, because I watched it, but anytime when Bart Kay gets into like sciencey stuff, I feel like I have to watch it more than once.
Yeah, me too.
Right.
But okay, so she talked about depression, which I think that Georgia Eads' book is really fantastic when it comes to mental health. And I mean, if you want to learn more about mental health and diet, you got to read her book, Change Your Diet, Change Your Mind.
That's
and Chris Palmer's book too. His is really good.
His is good. Yeah, I haven't read his.
I don't think I've read. I think I started listening to his, but I haven't finished it. I think I just got barely into it.
Yeah, I have Dr. Chris Palmer's book on audio. I would not recommend it as your workout music.
Oh.
Does it slow you down?
It's so deep and stuff. You need to be doing nothing else but focusing on the subject.
Just focus on it. Okay.
Well, when I listened to that video that I was recommending to you all of Bart Kay's, I literally took like 6 pages of notes. And I mean, just the whole time I was like, pause, just writing vigorously.
Wow.
So
I need to start doing that.
Yeah, it was a refresher from biochemistry, but I didn't grasp it the first time around as well as I should have.
But even with the nervous system, she talks about, mitochondrial dysfunction leads to problems with the central nervous system, neurotransmitter signaling, including the neurotransmitters that modulate mood, such as serotonin and norepinephrine. And so, the whole thing, and that's where she's talking about. She's got all these different things, like in Charlie's diagram. She talks about chronic pain, sinus infections, migraines, even hearing loss, all these different conditions, and they all have the same underlying cause. So is it okay if I skip over a little bit?
Yeah.
And talk, because I know we talk a lot about female fertility. I was really interested in what she said about male fertility.
As was I.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, because I mean, she talked about she said fertility crisis in America isn't confined to women. And I think we do tend to, think about women because women are the ones that get pregnant, but it takes two. But she said sperm count has fallen precipitously in this century by more than 50 to 60% in 40 years as of last count. And then she talked about metabolic dysfunction. She said low sperm count hits obese men particularly hard. They have an 81% higher chance of having zero sperm in their semen than men of normal weight.
Wow.
I was like, what?
Yeah.
That's crazy. She said male factor infertility contributes up to 50% of infertility cases. This is directly related to metabolic issues as fat tissue contains enzymes called aromatases that convert testosterone to estrogen and disrupt the delicate hormonal balance required for sperm production. Dr. Benjamin Bickman notes that fat tissue in men basically acts like a big ovary, causing low testosterone and higher estrogen. That was interesting. So men,
that's why they get man boobs.
trying to conceive and have a baby, men need to lose the weight because their fat tissue is acting like an ovary.
Oh, and I said, sorry, I have to interject and correct myself, but I said citric acid cycle. What I meant was Randall cycle. He talks about it all the time.
Cycle.
And the
Okay.
citric acid cycle is like the last part of, anyway, yeah. I won't go too deep into it because I can't.
Yeah, the Randall cycle, which I have no memory of hearing about that until he brought it up. But
yeah, this actually goes into that sentence there, that the one where she talks about Dr. Benjamin Bickman, that fat tissue acts like a big ovary in men, causing low testosterone and higher estrogen. That really stuck out to me because I was really curious, had I taken like a testosterone test when I was at my heaviest, what that would have looked like. But since I've been keto, then carnivore, my testosterone has been like at the higher end of normal or just outside the higher end of normal, quote unquote. So,
excellent.
And I suspect that as I've lost more body fat and gained more muscle, that it's increased due to that reason. And I don't know. For me, the increase and sustained increase of testosterone has been, I associate with like drive to do stuff. I mean, not just get stuff done essentially. And I have plenty of that. I mean, sometimes I have so much energy and drive. It's just like, okay, what else could I be doing? So.
Well, and I see a lot of symptoms of this in my workplace when you go to catheterize the males, because most of them have enlarged prostate, and that all goes along with, it's all symptoms of the same kind of issue, the inflammation, the mitochondrial dysfunction, the metabolic dysfunction. And, around after 40s sometimes, and for 50s for sure, there will be a lot of men that you just can't hardly, it's difficult to catheterize them. And so they're having a lot of erectile dysfunction and, stuff
and
like
speaking
that.
of atherosclerosis, that's erectile dysfunction. I mean,
there's one sentence in that same section, Lynn, that really caught my attention too. Says metabolic and sexual health expert Dr. Sarah Gottfried notes erectile dysfunction is atherosclerosis of the penile artery until proven otherwise. It notes that ED, erectile dysfunction, is a neon sign that a man needs a metabolic evaluation. Additionally, glycation caused by high glucose level impairs the health of penile tissues and blood vessels and also contributes to ED. So if you're like a young guy that's heavy, I mean, if that sentence doesn't speak to you that you should do something, then I don't know what
exactly. Don't just ignore ED.
Yeah, but if you go to your doctor with that, you know what they're going to say? They're going to say, "Oh, do you want to try some Viagra?" They're not going to say, "Oh, we should do a full metabolic workup."
Well, and they might also attribute it to stress.
Yeah.
Well,
Potentially.
You're in your head. You're in your head too much.
Yeah.
Oh Lord.
So
Yeah, if any guy's struggling with that and you can't get your doctor to take you seriously and to actually do something, do some testing for it, I would probably recommend that they go see a functional medicine doctor.
Yeah.
Or, like a naturopath.
Yeah. Someone who's going to actually want to get to the root cause. For
Yeah,
sure.
I had never heard of a doctor sitting down with a patient for 2 hours. So when she talked about Lucy and stuff, and then Kim, you chimed in that your doctor has done the 2-hour panel too. So that's.
I mean,
I've
it's
had
a
that as
functional
well.
medicine doctor though. Like she has a private practice. She doesn't take insurance. You pay exorbitant amounts of money to go see her. Basically, it equates to about $300 a month for the first 6 months. And that's just for her fee. Then you've got all your testing on top of that. And this testing can run thousands of dollars depending on which avenue you want to pursue,
A lot of the lab tests that these naturopathic and functional medicine doctors do aren't covered by insurance.
Yeah.
I've paid out of pocket many times for these lab tests that they do. A lot of them are kits, that you order and they
stool
collect the specimen, send it out. Yeah.
Urine testing and cortisol, and there's a lot, and a lot of it is kind of like the science is not 100% on it, so the value of some of it, like most of it was good, but the value of some of it may not have been as good as I wanted it to be, put it that way.
Yeah. Well, at least 10 years ago, I had gone to see a naturopathic doctor, and one of the tests came back with my histamine levels high. And that was before, I don't know if she had ever even heard of mast cell activation syndrome at that point. So I don't recall her saying anything to address it, which was weird. So, I mean, sometimes even the naturopathic doctors, there's things that they don't address. So I really feel like we need to be the ones to make sure that if there's something abnormal in our lab work, that we're taking ownership of it and making sure that we, find someone who can actually talk intelligently about it and address it. So
there's one thing in chapter 2 that I thought Dr. Casey Means missed, because she's going over like major things that people have a lot of, and maybe I skipped over it, but I don't think she addressed cancer as possibly
she
like
did
that.
not.
Yeah, so I thought that was interesting. So I went back over. I was like, maybe I missed it. I just glossed over it for whatever reason. But
I wonder if she's going to cover cancer later.
She probably will. It seemed like in this chapter, she was focused on more chronic illnesses and illnesses that people tend to consider just a normal part of life. So hopefully, because she didn't address, she addressed like high blood pressure, but she didn't address a lot of the heart disease, and although she did address COPD. So I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully she will. But then she starts talking about the childhood obesity and fatty liver disease. She said up to 20% of children have non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Up to 80% of obese children have it. Like that just blew my mind. She said fatty liver disease is now the most common cause of liver transplant in young adults in the United States. So fatty liver disease is nothing to laugh at, because it will, if not treated, it will lead to cirrhosis, which is permanent scarring of the liver, and it's lead to dysfunction of the liver and failure. So it's just scary to think that many kids, even so 20%, I'm assuming that's including the obese and non-obese. So even thin kids are getting fatty liver disease. So it's probably all that fructose we're feeding them. Wasn't it in our last book that or not the last book, the
that goes
previous one?
straight to your liver.
Yeah, your liver doesn't have any know what to do with it. Yeah, and so parents feeding their kids juice, letting them drink juice.
But they're told that the juice is good for their kids. Plenty of fruit. I mean, that's what they're told to do. And it's nature's sugar. I mean, and then like people talk about like a natural source of sweetener versus, and it's like, yeah, but like sugar is natural. I mean, it's a natural product. It's just, but basically it's all sweeteners and it all causes problems.
I remember I used to buy that unprocessed sugar, I mean, it was processed obviously, but it was it looks brown. I can't
Like
remember
raw cane sugar.
Sugar in the raw,
Yes.
Like, I'm getting this raw sugar. It's great.
Yeah.
Right. It's still sugar. Yeah. So what we're doing with our kids, and she did say that kids with metabolic dysfunction are at significantly higher risk for infections, such as strep throat and ear infections, than kids without metabolic dysfunction who are a healthy weight. So it definitely affects the immune system. I mean, when we got our son, he was 4 and he'd been in foster care. I think we were his 9th home, but he had chronic ear infections, and I have no idea what they were feeding him, but he had to have tubes in his ears and just recurrent ear infections. And when we got him, I mean, the wax inside of his ears was black.
Oh no.
And I took him off of sugar and it cleared up and no more ear infections. They're just taking him off of sugar. I didn't know about eating a carnivore diet back then, but I at least knew about eating a whole foods, low sugar diet. And so I definitely saw that firsthand with my son. So, but okay. So I know she talks about with older adults, things like stroke, dementia, which we know, I mean, type 3 diabetes, heart disease, respiratory disease. I interviewed somebody recently who had completely got over her asthma, like really bad, like lifelong asthma, like using an inhaler, like I think she said something like 6 to 8 or 10 times a day, something like that. Went on a carnivore diet and no longer needs to use her inhaler.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So even your lungs can heal.
Yeah. And if you go back to it, they can go back to the way they were before, because I can attest to that as someone who, occasionally has a weak moment and has something with sugar in it, or more specifically, either liquid dairy or if I were to, like, there's been a time or two I've eaten one of those low carb taco shells, like the wheat. I can't remember what they're called now, but
it has like 4 grams of carbs.
Yeah, it's supposed to have it's like 4 net, but that's a weak moment, right? That would be a major cheat for me, right? So after I would have that, I mean, just almost instantly, for sure by the next day, I would just be inflamed in my lungs, just feel junk in there, just almost wheezy, I don't have asthma, but the symptoms, they come right back,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, she made a really interesting comment that I highlighted here. She said the magnitude of effective diet on lung function is estimated to be comparable to that of chronic smoking.
I can see that.
That it's like if someone had told me that early on, maybe I would have been a little more conscientious of my diet.
Yeah.
Because I mean, we were like, oh my gosh, I wouldn't smoke, but look at how we eat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
But I did not realize how much it could have impact lung function. I mean, I know that when you're obese and, you have less room and your big belly press it up on your diaphragm and, you can't necessarily catch a deep breath as easily, but I always figure, well, that's just because of the big belly, but apparently it's on a cellular level affecting your lungs.
It's inflammation. I can feel it. And I've told my doctor for years and years, probably 15 years, I feel inflamed. My esophagus feels inflamed. My trachea feels inflamed. My lungs feel inflamed. And I didn't even know how to put words to it, really. I just knew, like, I just feel, it's a hot feeling, like a hot breath feeling. I feel inflamed. And she's just like, well, your blood test looked normal. It's just so shoddy, really. The whole workup that you get is just so shoddy.
Well, they have a very limited toolkit.
Yes, very limited. You're right.
Yeah, but they have the best tool right here, their ears. They need to be listening, and some of them do not.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
Well, like Dr. Barry would say, he says, and I think that's where, because I've seen him, he'd say right here, he said, shut up and listen to your patients. Doctors, they'll tell you what's wrong with them. He says, they'll tell you, but you got to shut up and listen.
Yeah. And don't brush it off. Yeah.
You know your body better than anybody. And, it makes you feel like just some kind of squeaky wheel or something to just keep going back, but you have to advocate for yourself,
Yeah.
And eat a good diet.
So were you guys intrigued by her arthritis section? I know I was definitely intrigued by it because the links that she made, I was completely not aware of. Like she said that people, and she said osteoarthritis is, the most common form of arthritis. And she said that people with osteoarthritis have 3 times the risk of having cardiovascular disease and 61% higher risk of having type 2 diabetes. I'm assuming that's a correlation, I'm guessing. But that was really interesting. But, it's basically even your musculoskeletal pain like arthritis is a downstream of bad energy processes.
And then it says right here, one metabolic factor that's been linked to arthritis and musculoskeletal pain is chronic inflammation. It's almost as if what we're all onto is true.
Oh, yeah. I mean, how many people have you heard they go on a carnivore diet and the first thing that like within a week, they'll say that their joint pain, their muscle pain, their arthritis is better, if not gone.
And their sleep apnea is better. Doctors will tell you, oh, they have sleep apnea just because they're so overweight. They've got so much, they got a fat tongue and all that. Well, that's only about half true, because if you get rid of that inflammation, their sleep apnea gets much better.
Yeah. I'm off my CPAP machine.
That's awesome.
I don't have to use it. Yeah. I've been on it since 2008.
Whoa.
Yeah. I don't need it anymore.
Huzzah.
Yes.
Yeah. I know. One of those great non-scale victories for sure. Yeah. So, but it was interesting. She said that there's a study conducted by the Arthritis Foundation that for every pound of weight gain, the load on the knee and joint increases by 4 pounds.
Wow.
So that's interesting. So, yeah. But, that's the effect of weight. There's also the effect of inflammation. So that's, and then she talked about COVID-19, but also talked about it in relation to things like influenza and, our immune system, basically, people that had higher hospitalization, higher mortality with COVID-19 had other, 80 to 100, she said 80 to 100% of them had other chronic health problems. Most common were metabolic issues such as type 2 diabetes and high blood pressure. And so I think the point was your ability to fight off infection. Like she was saying with the kids that have metabolic issues are more likely to get these infections. And then we're also more likely to not be able to fight off infections. And it's not just, COVID-19. She said, that it was not the first pathogen to biologically discriminate against people with diabetes. Bacterial infection and seasonal influenza both are much more morbid in people with diabetes for reasons including the impairment of the acute immune response in the face of high blood sugar. So when your blood sugar is high, your body's immune system just doesn't work very well. So people with diabetes are 6 times more likely to need hospitalization during influenza epidemics than those without the condition. And then, so it affects our ability to fight off viruses, bacterial infections, the flu, all that.
Yeah, come to think of it, since doing keto and then carnivore, I've not really been sick. So
me either.
I don't get.
No, my husband's
I might have been sick once.
Yeah, I mean, Dave was mentioning just this past week, like I don't get sick anymore.
No one talks about that. Isn't that like a big deal?
Well, we're talking about it now.
Me too. That's a big deal.
That is a big deal. Yeah.
Yeah, it's huge.
And I rarely get sick. I did get the virus last October, but I didn't have it very long. Like it was almost like a very intense, like a couple of days where, I felt like death gnawing on a cracker. And then, but I got better very quickly and no residual effects.
Yeah.
So I consider myself pretty lucky or fortunate.
Oh, yeah. I had like, when I had it, I had like great energy. I was maybe laid down for an hour with a very mild fever, but otherwise it was big stuffy nose, I lost my sense of smell, but for a while.
I never got it. So,
yeah.
And I worked at the bedside the whole time,
Well,
I
know that there were people though who were naturally immune that were, if you worked through the SARS-1 epidemic, you probably got exposure. And I read that it was like over 80% similar as far as morphology of the virus. And so your immunity that you developed. So there was a lot of people who were already immune, didn't have that immunity to it. So that's good.
Yeah, see, my dad was sick with it in 2021. And I was like totally exposed to him. And so never got it. And then for whatever reason, I think I blamed the haunted house. We went to a haunted house. Yeah. Close proximity with other people, I guess. And
people screaming in your face.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but like I said, I didn't have it very long. I did feel really bad for a couple of days. And then after that, I was better. 1 week later, I was at that KISS concert.
Yeah, that's good. Well, I got it in 2021, November. But I had been on that was the first time I went on the carnivore diet. And I had been on the carnivore diet for 6 weeks. And then I got COVID. And I know that the carnivore diet helped me.
Yeah.
Because for 6 weeks before, I had just been eating carnivore. Yeah.
I did keto for most of the pandemic period. I had a lot of anxiety, as probably most people did during that time. And it just I felt that it calmed my anxiety and it gave me something to control, because I was always a planner and you couldn't even write anything in your calendar because there's literally nothing. Like you're not going to do nothing. This is it, So I would go to work and come home and I was just like, oh, this is horrible. So doing that diet, it helped me. Like a lot of people were going off of their diets. I was reeling mine in,
That's good.
To just have the one thing I could control was what I put in my mouth, And so I think it helped me mentally and physically.
Yeah. So, all right. I think we got chapter 2 wrapped up. Yeah, you got good immunity working at the hospital. Absolutely. I know my first year working at the latest hospital, I think I caught everything.
Oh, and Susan said that she saw this author and her husband on one of the national morning. I wonder if it was her brother, because she usually does with her brother. and she shared it with Carrie from Homestead How, and he got the book and read it. And I believe he interviewed her, if I'm not mistaken. We might have Susan to thank for that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh,
Dr.
hey,
Nelson.
Dr. Nelson's in the
Dr.
house.
Nelson.
Hello.
Popping in at the end. Awesome. So saw you on Carrie's live stream on yesterday.
Yeah.
It was awesome. Awesome to see you there among the other doctors. That was great. So
yeah. And I subscribe to your channel.
Yep.
yeah. Oh, you know what? I don't even think I found his. I'm gonna go subscribe to it. I don't even think I've looked up his channel yet.
Yeah,
Dr.
and
Nelson,
actually one of his videos popped up on my feed today. I think he only has one video, but it popped up earlier.
Okay, and Dr. Nelson, put a link to your channel in the comments. We all need to go and subscribe.
Yeah.
So, is it just your name? So, we're gonna go find it and subscribe. Yeah, make sure you subscribe to Dr. Nelson. He's awesome. So,
Yeah, and
okay,
he's got
so
quite
are
the transformation himself.
Oh yeah,
An amazing
yeah.
transformation.
Yep, definitely. All right, are we done with chapter 2?
I think so.
I believe so.
Awesome. Yep. All right. So what's our plan for next week? I know we talked a little bit about it ahead of time. Are we going to try to tackle 3 and 4 and see how far we get?
You know, I mean, you know, we can have a talk on anything. It doesn't matter. You know, if we just do chapter 3, we're just going to be more chatty. So
This is true.
I mean, what do you guys want to do?
So
I'll be out of town next week, so I won't be able to participate. So, and then I'll be probably out the following Sunday because Brett is hosting a meetup, and the meetup lasts until
okay.
You know, kind of
Okay.
works a little bit.
Well, maybe we can shoot for 3 and 4.
Okay.
And then we can see how far we get. And even if we stop like midway through chapter 4, we can just finish it the following week.
That's right. We can make the rules because it's our book club.
That's right.
Our book club.
Everybody go subscribe to Dr. Nelson. It's at The Real Dr. Nelson.
All right.
Awesome. Okay. I'm finding it right now. Of course, I need to go to my CARB channel here. I got 2 YouTube channels. One of them is just my personal one, which I don't use for anything. So, all right. Good deal.
Yeah, Dr. Nelson, I enjoyed listening to you on the live stream. Well, the live stream I watched in replay. So, you know, I reversed my type 2 diabetes. So, you know, I believe very strongly in this message and donated.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Now, has Carrie interviewed you, Charlie?
No, he has not. So, I'm sure
Are you
someday.
going?
I'm sure someday we'll make it happen. So.
Yeah, I'll have to bring you up in one of our team meetings because I know that he was looking at, I mean, he's definitely like on a really interested in the diabetes thing now, and looking for more people that have reversed it. And you don't live that far away from him. You're in the kind of general area, right, or the state or two. I don't know. I don't know all the states.
I just submitted my.
I think Brett said it was like 6 hours for him to go up to his theater. So I'm about way too. So
it's a little far, but it is potentially driving distance.
Essentially, yeah. So
yeah. Okay. Awesome. Yeah, I'll have to bring you up to him. So. Alrighty, sugar is the root of all evil, metabolic evil. That's right.
That's what chapter 2 is all about. So.
Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah.
Finally, a doctor with the right answer. No.
Yes,
that's right.
We like to razz doctors over here, but we also love really good ones that not only know how to listen, but know how to put the pieces together and get to the root of the problem. And you're one of them.
Absolutely. And it's not just the typical sugar, table sugar, added sugars. It's anything that breaks down to sugar in your body.
Yep.
So,
all right, guys. Well, I guess we will head out. if you want to come back and see us next week, we're going to shoot for chapters 3 and 4. We'll see how far we get. Chapter 4 is really long, but we'll see how far we get. So you guys have a great week, and we'll see you next week.
Awesome.
All
All
right,
right.
everybody.
Bye, guys.
Thanks for joining us.
See you later.